welcome everyone. My name is Daniel Cairns and I'm the Head of Enrolments here at Fourth Rev. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to From Spreadsheets to AI, Future-Proofing Your Data Career in 2025. The event is brought to you by Fourth Rev in partnership with the London School of Economics Online, which we're most proud to partner with. As we all know, the world of data is rapidly evolving, and today we'll discuss not only how to stay relevant in the era of AI, but also how to thrive in this changing landscape where AI and automation are transforming the way we work with data. This is the second event. The first one was huge, and there's going to be, by the registration amounts that we have, many of you here today as well. The second event that we've done as a part of this data career series. For those of you who joined the last one, we'll be looking at the latest research and AI trends, and particularly focusing on the impact of automation and how that's happening and shaping a new kind of data career. Now, I'd like to share with you first one of the stories from one of our graduates and panelists, but I think it speaks to the current data career landscape and what many maybe of you here may be feeling as well. So as you can see there, I was getting left behind. Tim Durgan mentioned that when considering his study options, and I think it's a really poignant thing to consider, but also a very common thing that people experience as well. So we will be going through a lot more about that, but we'll certainly touch on that from Tim himself shortly. I can't wait to get to his story. The speed of change is faster than we can ever keep up with at the moment. And someone much wiser than I, I've said this a few times in webinars, said a number of years ago, the pace of change has never been this fast, yet it will never be this slow again. And I think that's really important to consider. But a quick spoiler alert as well, Tim did end up learning the technical skills that his team knew, if not more. He also overcome a very common fear that our learners experience. Will I be able to learn these technical programming skills? More on that later when we catch up with Tim. But like Tim, many of our learners come from varied backgrounds and have successfully transitioned into data-driven roles, each with their unique challenges and triumphs. I'd love to know why you've chosen to join the event and what challenge or opportunity you may be facing in your own career right now. We're going to put a poll up. Basically, why are you here? Why have you chosen to attend today? Are you looking to advance your career? Are you looking to pivot into a new data-related role? Or are you seeking specific data skills? I'll give you a quick moment to do that while I also do a quick bit of housekeeping as well. So today we'll explore how data skills can transform your career, unpack the key skills to focus on and a pathway for building them, introduce the LSE Data Analytics Career Accelerator, and I'm really excited to provide also a November enrolment incentive. We'll answer some of your questions in a live Q&A at the end. Just so everyone's aware, if you do have questions throughout the event, we'll try and get to them at the end. It is such a big audience, I can't promise that we'll get to them all. But if you do have a question, please pop it in the Q&A function, not the chat. The chat will be used to drop some resources in there that will be very helpful for you to introduce where you're from, as many of you have done. And please use the Q&A function when we get there as well. So the future data career outlook, changes, AI and automation. If we can go back one slide just briefly. From spreadsheets to advanced analytics, the skills journey, the foundational skills, technical skills, and the AI trends in data, and the LSE Data Analytics Career Accelerator. Wanting to get through that somewhat rapidly and answer many of your questions, but enough from me. Let's now introduce our most esteemed panel. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome Elodie, Christian, Tim, and Kate to the conversation, who I can't wait to discuss all these things related to data and AI. And I might go around the room and ask our esteemed panel to introduce themselves, starting in reverse order from what we may have done a little bit previously. I might start with you, Christian, if that's okay. Welcome.
Thanks very much, Daniel. Really great to be here. So I'm Christian Chalk. I'm a senior manager in PwC's internal audit team, based in one of our London offices. So over the past couple of years, alongside the kind of internal audit day job, I've been increasingly involved in AI and data from a couple of different perspectives. So on the one hand, doing assurance work and internal audit work with clients, looking at their rollout of AI and their use of data. And then on the other hand, working with organizations as they go through that kind of maturity journey. So using Gen AI as part of their day-to-day and working out how they can go from a kind of an ad hoc, kind of immature situation to a more developed, consistent use of AI, where they're getting the sort of the full efficiencies of this new technology.
Most exciting, and no doubt you're busy, which is the main thing, Christian. Thank you ever so kindly. Tim, welcome.
Thank you. I am Tim. I have spent about 16 years in advertising and marketing agencies. I'm actually based in Hong Kong, but as you could probably sound by my voice, I'm not from Hong Kong. I'm from West Yorkshire. And I learnt quite a lot of this course that have actually essentially helped me start a business. So I've now, about 2 months ago, I launched an AI marketing services company, which uses quite a lot of the stuff we learned through this course and productized them into various different marketing kind of outputs. And we have just won our first 2 clients this week. So it's been a hell of a ride to start the year.
That deserves as many emojis as anyone can give. Congratulations. I'm so excited to dive a little deeper into that and learn more about your early successes in business. Kate, welcome. Have you warmed up with a hot cup of coffee or tea?
Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm Kate McDermott. I'm an Associate Director at Omnis Partners. We're a specialist recruitment firm dealing in data, product and AI. I've spent the best part of 20 years working in data recruitment, having seen the landscape evolve from the days of Nectar and club card data all the way through to the world of proprietary AI products that we see today. So I've seen multiple cycles of change, and we are living through, I think, a second technology revolution, if you like. So I'm really excited to see how AI is going to shift and change not just the data market, but the job market in totality. So, yeah.
And last but not certainly least, Elodie, welcome, I must say, once again.
Thanks, Daniel. Thanks for inviting me. I'm Elodie Hudson. I started my career as a scientist working in fisheries. I then spent 16 years as a secondary school science teacher. And then a couple of years ago decided I really needed a change. And that's when I found the LSE Data Analytics course. So I'm a graduate of that course. And I went from the course to working in a software company in Guildford called AssessTech, and we sell competence management software to the railway industry. So I started there as a data scientist, and I'm now Director of Development. I look after the software development team and the data analytics team. And it's been an incredible journey of discovery, learning about business, software development, and applying all the skills I learned on the course in the context of data analytics. And I've just recently taken up a role, the perfect complement to my day job, which is helping out on the LSE Data Analytics course as an assistant facilitator, which I absolutely love because it gives me a little bit of a teaching fix. And it's really kind of consolidates my understanding of all the topics that get covered in the course.
Marriage made in heaven. It sounds like a dream role. We are so delighted to also have you not only as a valued alumni of the program, but now a part of the Fourth Rev and LSE Online team as well. So let's get into a few of the topic. Let's frame, I guess, the outlook. What's on the horizon? The demand for specialist data skills is skyrocketing. 90% of business leaders cite data literacy as a key to the company's success, but only 25% of workers feel confident in their data skills. 42% of business tasks will be automated by 2027, if not earlier, the way we're going. Data entry clerk is one of the fastest declining roles, but we must say AI and machine learning specialists and analysts are the fastest growing. Employers estimate that 44% of workers with skills will be disrupted over the next 5 years. As our graduates and panelists can attest to, the demand for specialised data skills is skyrocketing, and across the board, people in all careers and industry are realising the need to become data literate. When we look at the way AI is impacting the data career, we see more than 40% of data-related tasks are predicted to be automated, shifting the role of data professionals from repetitive analysis to strategic problem solving. More and more, we face the fact that data skills are now may not be the same data skills we need in the future. So it's the need to adapt is key. Question for the panel first, and let's kick off on this note, I guess. If you could look into the future, what do you think data careers will look like in 5, 10, or even 20 years' time, if we can cast our mind that hard, or that far, but especially 5 or 10? I might start with Kate, if that's okay. Kate, given you're in recruitment with a lens to what employers are seeking on a daily basis.
Sure, absolutely. So starting our business earlier this year gave us an opportunity to really reflect on what we thought the future of data roles might look like, because we've seen such an involvement over the last 20 years and even just the last 2 years. So as your data points out, I think we are starting to see the traditional analyst role disappear and be replaced largely by AI products and services. However, what we are also seeing is at a more mid to senior level, those very traditional analysts upskilling and reskilling, and that might be machine learning and AI practices and techniques and methodologies, but equally it might also be digital. So most businesses, if they're going to hire an analyst or what they might term a data scientist in some cases, are looking for a blend of skills. I think it's really important for people to focus on building a portfolio of analytical skills and experience. Businesses want people who can wear many hats. They want people who can work in an adaptive manner, people who can learn quickly and keep up with the constant change and transformation that we're seeing amongst organizations at the moment. And this has been accelerated by the pandemic, where we saw most organizations go through some kind of digital or data transformation. So I think whilst we are still in quite a fragmented market in terms of role profiles and skills, the hiring that we've seen in the last year or two, and I think what we'll continue to see is focused on people that can operate in more than one specialism. So I will say that there is absolutely a need for very, very niche expert skills within machine learning and AI, particularly when we talk about AI looking at Gen AI, NLP work, building LLMs, but you will be boxing yourself into quite a narrow part of the market. So even if you have that as a specialism, I would still encourage people to try and keep quite a broad skill set, because we don't really know what the future is going to hold. And as I say, I think we'll just continue to see a huge amount of change over the course of the next 5 years.
Completely agree. As daunting as it is, it's exciting. Also, anyone else would like to give their view of what the future may look like for data careers?
Happy to give a bit of a perspective from I suppose what we're seeing both within the kind of internal audit team that I'm a part of, and also the organisations that we work with. I completely agree with Kate's comments around the need for adaptability. One of the words that we use quite frequently is resilience, and it's that resilience to change and not being stuck in a certain way of working, and being very open-minded and having that kind of horizon scanning view on what's coming down the pipeline and how that might impact whatever role you're doing at a given time. I think one other thing that we're seeing having increasing importance in relation to AI and data is the governance and control aspect. So if we're introducing AI into an organization, having somebody or a group of people who have got that responsibility for governing how that works within the organization. So reviewing business cases and making sure that AI is rolled out in a responsible, ethical way is increasingly important. And then the final point, which I think we'll probably come to later on in the session, is the remaining or sort of increasing importance on the softer skills and kind of interpersonal ability. Almost regardless of what job you've got, that is incredibly important. And I think we've seen some real damage done by kind of lockdown and working remotely, and actually people are still really valuing that kind of interpersonal side. So it's perhaps not losing sight of that whilst trying to upskill, in the various areas of kind of data and analytics.
Yeah, I completely agree. And when we design the program, we partner with industry to understand what employers need and couple that obviously with the academic underpinnings that LSE are so globally renowned for. And the one the employers were insistent on not just the technical, but the soft skills that you mentioned, and also the business application and the business benefit of presenting data for impact and rapid decision making. I think that's always going to be the way. I'm old enough to remember the introduction of Microsoft Office. I'm not sure many in the audience may be also, but it was a similar kind of environment of excitement and fear. And I've said this before as well, that I remember someone saying Excel will kill accountants. I think with a lens toward the future, there is a shift toward the skill sets required, but also those opportunities that they open up, as we've seen a massive decline in data entry, a huge incline in analysts. I'll move on to the next one because we're going to get to AI, which I'm sure everyone's excited about. As we can see on the slide now, AI, when we say set to take over, it's also creating efficiencies in these roles as well. Data cleaning, obviously, basic analysis and reporting, predictive modeling, data classification and synthesis. Job responsibilities of a data analyst in 5 years' time may be and will be that strategic data exploration, the value-driven tasks, tool management, and ethics that we're going to touch on again in a moment. But it's clear that AI is a key part of our data analytics future. This tech is not just automating repetitive tasks, it's transforming how data professionals operate. Next year, AI is expected to handle routine lower-level processing, cleansing, analytical, and even predictive modeling, freeing up time for more strategic, value-driven tasks. And I implore people, when you're applying for roles, to consider that when pitching your skill set to an employer, that value proposition that you have through your skill set. However, with this shift, new skills are required, including understanding AI systems and how to leverage them. On to the next slide, new data responsibilities, AI modeling and oversight, AI model oversight and customization. Analysts will increasingly work with AI and machine learning models, ensuring their accuracy and ethical deployment. They may need to collaborate with scientists to tweak and refine algorithms to suit specific business contexts. Advanced data storytelling and visualization, which is so important. The shift will be through the automation handling of basic visualizations. Analysts will concentrate on crafting compelling narratives from data, communicating complex insights to non-technical stakeholders. I think that is key as well. And then, as we've mentioned, the ethical and AI data governance. As AI systems handle more decision-making processes, data analysts will be increasingly responsible for ensuring the ethical use of AI and data compliance. The influence of AI over the next 5 years and automation, the responsibilities will shift, as I've said. I've got a question for the panel on that one. Within this new era of AI, what data skills do you feel are the most important to upskill on, both now with a lens for the near future? I might ask Tim first, if you're happy to contribute to that, and any other panelists that would like to also give their recommendation.
Yeah, sure. So there's a couple of things to that. I think number one, there are specific different new jobs, as you mentioned earlier on, like prompt engineering is now a thing. I read this morning that there were, in April alone, there were 10,000 job openings for prompt engineering just in Spain. And so that's one market. So new things will come up like this. So prompt engineering is one example, but there are loads. But from a business point of view, the one thing I would say, and it's been again been touched on, AI is not a destination, it's a vehicle to business. And that's the one thing that I think that I'm a little bit concerned about when people talk about the technology, they stop thinking about business case and start thinking just about tech. So there is the data storytelling here for me is the most important, because you may learn things around clustering and Python and coding, and the reality is what you're really saying is, I will use technology to find your most valuable customers. And that's the story. So whenever I see job openings or job sites talking all around engineering, data, etc., very few of them actually talk about business analytics and business case. And I think that is something that needs to change, because those two things, if you can't talk business, you can't talk data, and vice versa. So in terms of upskilling, this middle bit is really the most important bit. So what we did quite early on in our in the business is we actually built products. Those products are the use case around, let's say, competitor analytics, powered by AI to do it better, or predictive modeling, or customer analysis, or segmentation, whatever all these things are. These are things that a marketer or a business, they buy those things. They don't buy the tech, they buy the outcome. So there's so much more work that I think needs to be done to make sure we're talking outcome-based and with a vehicle of AI, not just AI for the sake of AI, I can build you this, it never goes anywhere. So the second one here for me is probably most important, and then the data governance is usually handled by legal as well. So for us, it's something to be considerate of, but yeah, there's another ethical question later on, so I'll say it later. But yeah, I think there's a lot more stuff around, yeah, the prompt stuff, but the business analytics, that's really the key that we shouldn't lose.
Absolutely. And well put, Tim, as well. Anyone else like to contribute
Yeah,
to?
I'll add something to that, Daniel. So I totally agree with Tim that AI is really just another tool in the toolkit for doing data analytics to drive business insights. And with that in mind, I'd sort of draw a distinction between people working in data science and analytics who are developing AI tools specifically. They are very specialized niche occupations. And then the majority of data analysts and scientists who will just be needing to upskill so that they can use those tools. And I think in being able to use those tools, you are not going to be able to drop all of those basic skills that we are hoping will be automated or replaced by AI. So data cleaning is absolutely crucial for any data function. And you can only rely on AI to do it for you if you're able to validate that the cleaning that it's done is what you want it to do. So you still need analysts with those skills. So just like Excel has not replaced accountants, AI is not going to replace data analysts. It's just we will add that tool to our toolkit, and that will be fantastic. And it's going to save loads of grunt work that is frankly quite boring, so that you can focus on the more interesting strategic business insights, but you're still going to need those basic skills.
Absolutely. And checks and balances in place, and especially when there's empathy required with any business context, I think that's an important thing to consider as well. You're exactly right. Just a reminder for everyone, put your question, if you can, please put your questions in the Q&A function, and we'll put general comments or assets in the chat function. So if you can pop your questions in the Q&A, that would be awesome. Thank you kindly. I guess the next slide, we'll move right along. The automation shift and what it means. Entry-level roles that once focused on manual data manipulation will require advanced technical skills and a deeper understanding of AI-driven tools. And according to McKinsey, up to 800 million jobs globally could be displaced. Displaced doesn't always mean gone. Displaced often means change as well. By 2030, let's dive into the AI automation a little bit deeper, as it's one of the biggest areas of impact. Entry-level roles that once focused on manual data manipulation will require more advanced technical skills and a deeper understanding of AI-driven tools. Data analysts will be expected to focus more on advanced AI-driven tasks. This shift is part of a broader trend where AI is increasingly being integrated into analytics processes, making AI proficiency a critical skill for analysts, exactly as the panels just mentioned. So whilst automation is a massive opportunity, it also presents potential risks. AI-driven automation can lead to job displacement in low-skill areas of data analysis, but it also creates a higher level opportunities in managing AI systems, interpreting complex outputs, and developing new AI-driven strategies. My question for the panel, therefore, is what's your take on automation as both a threat and an opportunity in the data industry? Elodie, you touched on that somewhat. You covered some of this as well previously, but Christian or Kate, do you have any take on automation as both a threat and an opportunity?
Yeah, I think, you know, looking at some of the kind of the demos and the kind of cutting edge AI which is becoming available, there are huge opportunities for businesses and organizations. If you can reliably use automation to take out some of the more straightforward repetitive tasks within whatever business you're running, obviously that presents a huge upside in terms of, you know, reducing costs and potentially even managing and improving the kind of accuracy of whatever it is that's being automated. I think there are a number of challenges which are coming through at the moment and are kind of on the horizon, depending on how well the technology kind of develops. So one of the things that kind of plays on my mind a lot of the time is when we're talking about kind of entry-level positions, that's often where people learn their trade, kind of learn their craft, going through those kind of more mundane tasks in whatever role that they have before developing up and taking on perhaps more management responsibilities. And I think organizations are grappling with the question of how you have a pipeline of colleagues coming into your organization if those tasks that they would have historically been trained on have been automated. So I think that's a bit of an open question for all number of kind of sectors that are embracing technology. And then there's that wider point around automation whereby, as the kind of stat says there, 800 million jobs potentially being displaced there. Now, for some of those, there's going to be an opportunity to retrain, but for others, it may be the case that actually that job kind of ceases to exist. So I think some real questions over how we as an organization or sort of looking more broadly, nationally or even internationally, how we approach that, given some of the potential implications, depending on where this technology goes next.
Exactly. Really well put. Anyone else on that topic of threats and opportunities, or would you like me to move on?
Yeah, I'd like to just add a few thoughts on that. I think obviously at the moment as a business as well, we're thinking about what the future landscape of role profiles will look like and where the focus will be and where the demand will be. And we're already starting to see early signs. So we think about that data lifecycle from engineering through to science, through to analytics, and then you're always talking about the foundations to that around governance, ethical management, security, privacy, etc. And I think whilst we might lose a portion of that cycle to automation, I'm already seeing a shift and a focus around, okay, where else can we create value within that life cycle? And I've had lots of feedback from CTOs around actually that data value creation point coming at the engineering phase. If we're talking about ingestion, cleansing, quality, security, privacy. So if you really focus on building robust processes at that engineering phase, it's going to enable people to do more reliable, sophisticated, scalable work, particularly around productization of data later on in that life cycle. So we cover product as well. We've seen a huge demand just in the last few months as the market has started to gain confidence again around hiring people in that data product owner manager space. And a lot of people I've seen over the course of the last couple of years have moved out of analytics or data science or even data strategy into that product space as well. So as Christian was saying, I think, there are some big question marks about how the industry will shift and change, but it's creating more opportunity in what were quite small parts of the industry in terms of, as I say, kind of data products roles. And the engineering part of that life cycle is, and the focus on hiring there is growing. So I still think, though, that to your point earlier as well, Daniel, the analysts coming into the industry hopefully will just be able to use their brains a bit more and be able to think about the strategic application of the insights and the analytics and the models that they're developing. And perhaps, the slightly more mundane tasks, yes, will be automated, but hopefully it won't have too much of an impact.
No, and that's exciting too. And I think that's where people looking, and we saw the poll earlier, looking to change careers into a data role, consider your transferable skills from any sector, like Elodie did, obviously, and many of us have done over our careers. Those transferable skills are critical and valued in many, many cases. So we'll touch on a little bit more of that later. I'm keen to get through some more questions for the panel as well. So
can I just very quickly add my view on this as well? So this is probably a very biased opinion coming from someone who's just started a business, but I would say it's never been the best time to start a business, because the threat is, you see sometimes salaries going down for some kind of data analyst jobs as they become more automated and AI. But actually, for someone like me, who this time last year I could barely even write a query, now I can go to market and do 2 days. Well, I do 2 months work in 2 days, right? So I could now spend my time going out, making new contacts, making new business, spend all that time. Whereas before, if I'd have brought in 2 clients in 1 week, this time 5 years ago, it would have taken me 3 months to get those on board, and I wouldn't be able to go back out and start selling. Now I could do that in a week or two. So with the market as it is, with the economics as it is, if you can get yourself into a position with a decent background and a decent knowledge of business and a good handle on AI to automate stuff and make your job quicker, you can then go to market and say, I have the skill set to bring you more revenue or to reduce your cost base, whatever it may be. And now it's so much more easy to do that now than it was even 5 years ago. So whereas the threat is around jobs and job market and layoffs, etc., the opportunity is to go and start a new business. So I would say that any small business, and some of our clients now that we're talking to, they still don't really have much of a starting view on data. But now any small business has got access to the same level or very similar level of maturity as a massive, massive business had 5 years ago. And that is a huge advantage if you play it that way. If you're scared of it and you run away from it, you'll be left out. If you run towards it and learn and adapt and resilience, as I said earlier on, and you're flexible to learn every week or two, then the opportunity is there if you go for it. So it's really in the eye of the beholder as to whether you are scared of it or whether you are going to embrace it. And the quicker you do, as I said, the quicker you'll see returns, which didn't happen 5 years ago.
3 words: yes, yes, and yes. That was really well put, Tim. And I hope that resonated with the audience, and I can see by their reactions that it certainly did, but you're exactly right. Thank you for that. Navigating the data skill journey. So now that we've set the industry scene, let's look at some of the current skills landscape. So navigating the data skills journey from analytics, spreadsheet to advanced analytics. Key skills for scientists, obviously 86% of data scientists report Python as their main programming language for current projects. SQL remains crucial, appearing in up to 60% of all data job posts alongside Python. The Excel skills gap, though, is a hidden opportunity. 57% of employees have no or basic Excel skills. I find that still quite fascinating. But if you're an emerging analyst, focusing on Excel is a great start, but to future-proof your career, learning AI and machine learning tools is absolutely essential as well. Your skill pathway to AI, next slide. With the foundational and programming skills in mind, we get this skills pyramid. This can be your pathway from spreadsheets to AI, and it's also a list of the most in demand in the job market now and possibly in the years to come. So we've got still database skills. SQL will remain crucial, appearing up to 60% of all job posts that I mentioned, alongside Python. This underscores the continued importance of database management and skills in data roles. Programming, 86% of data scientists, as I mentioned, report Python. Visualization tools like Tableau, Power BI, and many, many others are essential for communicating the insights effectively. Statistical analysis, understanding statistical concepts and the tools is crucial for deriving meaningful insights from data. And Gen AI and machine learning, with the rapid growth in AI engineer roles, skills in areas like deep learning, natural language processing, and computer vision are becoming increasingly valuable. As automation, I guess, handles more mundane tasks, data professionals must focus on the high value skills, and we've touched on this already, like critical thinking, problem solving, ethical data use, business value. We'll also see an emphasis on soft skills that we touched on, and that Christian raised certainly earlier. These are crucial for professionals who need to explain complex insights to non-technical stakeholders. I can't stress that enough. It's a really, really important one. But for our panelists, have you seen data analysts evolve their skills from entry-level tools like Excel to advanced platforms like Python or machine learning libraries? And I'm going to launch a poll as well. I might come to Kate first on this question. But let's ask the audience as well. What's your skill level? Rate your current skills in the following tools: Excel, SQL, does that come up? Python and Power BI. But Kate, have you seen analysts evolve their skills from entry-level tools to more advanced platforms and machine learning libraries?
Yes, is the short answer. It's a very appealing market, I think, for new graduates to. Everybody wants to work, or most people want to work at the cutting edge of analytical and data science platforms and technologies, and they recognise that it's important to start off in a role that's either going to give you a segue into that space or that gives you that on-the-job learning and the opportunity to apply all of the theory that you've learned at, quite often university or on courses. I think if I could provide one really key piece of advice, and you touched on this earlier, and I think Elodie referenced this as well, whilst the technical skills are really important, it's the application of the work that you're doing to create value. And this term value creation is being used more and more and more. And I think it's really important to be able to keep that front of mind when you're putting together a CV, when you're interviewing for a role. It's demonstrating either the cost saving, like putting it really simply, the cost saving or the revenue generation that you have contributed to or owned. There's such an intense focus on cost at the moment from organisations. And I was talking to a gentleman that heads up an engineering team at a big automotive manufacturing company, and he scaled his own team of data engineers here in the UK and trained some people up. And every single person in his team of data engineers is able to articulate the value creation point of the work that they're doing. So it's not always about working on ad hoc bespoke insights projects to answer broad business questions and generate value in that way. As I was saying earlier, I think there's been a shift in the market and a rethink around, okay, what are the data value creation points in that life cycle? So whilst I do think it's important to upskill to quite an advanced level, I do think that commercial mindset is really, really important. And it doesn't necessarily, you don't necessarily need a hammer to crack a walnut. Sometimes you can work in a really smart way to actually deliver incremental value for organizations. And it might be small tweaks, it might be major changes, but I think businesses have in the last year or two become very astute and very alert to where you can create value from the data itself, not just with the application of the data. So yeah, I have always seen it. I mean, for the last 10 years, people have constantly been upskilling and looking to do more advanced work. And just one last, quick point on that. I was reading an article this morning about the disappointment, I think, industry-wide from organisations about the lack of commercial return from a lot of the data science teams that have been scaled post-pandemic in particular. So as I say, businesses are very prescriptive now in terms of hiring data science talent. They need people that can really clearly demonstrate the commercial return, because I think there was a bit of a trend for a while where businesses hired a huge number of data scientists and actually didn't take responsibility for really measuring the performance and the commercial return and the impact. And so they just had lots of people internally doing lots of very advanced work, and there was no real connect to business outcomes. So there's definitely been a rethink around that.
Completely agree.
Can I add to that, Daniel?
Yeah, please do, Elodie.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting what you've said, Kate. And I'd say part of the problem with that adding value is potentially a lack of good strategic data leadership that makes sure that there's a good connection between the data teams and the directors and managers of that business, who are responsible really for posing the right questions for the data teams to answer. And that's a kind of a two-way street. As for this pyramid here, I would say that everything on that pyramid is important. So the analysts and scientists that we have in our data team need the first four absolutely all the time. And I think it's very important that they are also inclined to want to improve those skills as well in their jobs. It's an ongoing journey. When it comes to soft skills, what I've learned working in the railway industry is that in railway system safety, there's this concept of non-technical skills. So when there are accidents or incidents on the railway, they look at cause factors for incidents. And non-technical skills basically it covers soft skills and more. So it covers things like situational awareness, diligence, communication, self-management, decision-making, things like that. And I think for a data scientist or analyst to be really effective, and for a team to be effective, those non-technical skills need to be really good. And they are an important thing to showcase on your CV. And if you're a career changer especially, you could well have really good evidence to show that you have strong non-technical skills, which means you're going to be an effective part of a team.
spot on. And I think for the audience, both Kate and Elodie and obviously the whole panel, but in that section there's some really gems for you to take away and implement in your job seeking strategy as well. I employed to even watch the whole thing again, obviously, but that section as well, because that's exactly what employers are seeking as well. I'm very conscious of time. We've still got a fair bit to get through. So on to the next slide, because we want to touch on this as an important part. I'd like us to have a look into the future, unpack some of the AI trends to expect within the data field. One of the, I guess, most significant trends shaping the AI and data landscape is the growing focus on ethical AI, as AI models are used more frequently to make decisions. The demand for data professionals who understand the ethical implications of AI is skyrocketing, as we can see on the screen. Ethics will become a part of every data analyst's job in the future, and 30% of companies will have a formal AI ethics guidelines in place, up from 10% just this year. We touched on the fact earlier, the fact that professionals in all kinds of careers and industries are needing to learn the data skills. This speaks about another key trend to consider, the data democratisation, where AI tools make data analytics accessible to non-data professionals. And some of that, the low-code and no-code AI platforms are making it possible for people without technical backgrounds to analyse and interpret data, obviously. The low-code market is forecast to grow at an annual average rate of 22.9% from last year to 2030. This suggests an increase in demand for professionals who can work with low-code and no-code platform to democratise data analysis. However, these platforms also mean data analysts need to differentiate themselves by mastering more advanced AI tools and ensuring data integrity in a democratized environment. Last question for the panel before we touch on a roadmap to obtain the skills. What ethical challenges have you seen with AI implementation in data practices, and how can professionals prepare for them? I might start with you, Christian, if that's okay. You must see that quite often from the work that PwC does across many employers.
Yes, yeah. There's probably three different kind of perspectives that we see the kind of the ethical considerations coming in. So very briefly, you've got the kind of the macro scale. So if we think about things like the EU AI Act, so where you've got, you know, prohibited use cases, those really, you know, big ticket items that organizations aren't allowed to do under, you know, kind of EU legislation. Thinking about, you know, when we're making decisions with very sensitive data, so it might be like patient data, for example, very kind of strict regulation around that. So anyone who's looking to get involved in that field needs to understand kind of what the legislation says. At a more the sort of meso scale, if you like, so looking at the kind of an organization wide, we would expect there to be, and we work with organizations to make sure that there are the right controls in place, such that, you know, if there's public facing kind of versions of things like ChatGPT, that there aren't colleagues who are, you know, inputting data that shouldn't be in the public domain, you know, into those platforms, which is then using it to kind of to train future models. So kind of ethical considerations around what we're sharing with AI platforms that might be public facing. And then at the kind of micro scale, so thinking about kind of individuals, you know, some of the stats that have been on previous slides around the amount of displacement that AI could cause, thinking about the impact that has on individuals. So even if somebody's job, you know, may not be in jeopardy, there's a huge amount of anxiety that's causing. And I think organizations and individuals within organizations need to be aware of that and manage, you know, that transformation and the anxiety and worry that might be causing, especially people who, you know, are new to their careers and are worried that, okay, you know, am I about to be replaced because I'm hearing so much talk around automation and the tasks that I do on a day-to-day basis being given over to these platforms. So I think a number of different perspectives at different scales, but certainly things that we're talking about all the time that our clients are very kind of concerned about.
Yeah, completely understand. You know, in my role, I look at what other innovations other colleges and universities are doing globally, and we did see an example some time ago of an implementation in a sales and marketing campaign of AI, and it was ideally honing in on the best students they could recruit. the challenge was, and in its infancy back then, was that on day one of the new academic year, there was no diversity in the class. They hadn't factored in ethics and bias or a diverse outlook toward the language or the model. It's a great learning case now, but there's so many things to consider, and if you can position yourself to enable those skills and demonstrate them to prospective employers, you're going to be highly regarded. I could go on a lot about ethics. I am going to move on because I still want to get to questions, and we owe the audience an overview of how they can future-proof their career. But let's consider the takeaways. So as automation progresses, the data skills we use may now need not be the same skills we use in the future, is what I'm trying to say, what the slide says. Data analysts will focus more on advanced AI-driven tasks, including automation, predictive analytics, and also real-time data insights for business value that we keep saying. And the demand for data professionals who understand the ethical implications of AI is only going to increase. I guess the next part, I mean, I've got better people in the audience and in the panel than me to discuss this, but I do want to frame just quickly the how to start your journey to obtain these skills through the Data Analytics Career Accelerator that we've been running. We're coming up on, it's over 4 years, and there's been hundreds of learners that have graduated, 2 of which are on the panel. But as I mentioned before, it is designed with both and co-created with LSE and industry. And I think that's a really important thing to consider, knowing that the skills you obtain will be in high demand from an employer perspective. It offers a really clear pathway to mastering both foundational and advanced data skills, including those in AI. So whether you're starting with spreadsheets, or you're already familiar with some form of data analytics, the program provides structured learning, mentorship to prepare you for the future of data-driven careers. It's designed to bridge the gap between your current skills and industry demands, ensuring you can capitalise on the trends we've spoken about. It's made up of 3 courses and 1 live industry-facing project. In course 1, you'll cover Excel and SQL. Course 2 is Python. Course 3 will be R and advanced Python, all the way using Tableau for visualization. And then there's an employer-facing project at the end. So over a 6-week period, you'll meet with one of our employer partners. They'll present to you a real data-related scenario or challenge that they currently experience within their business or a client's business. And you, along with 4 or 5 other high-caliber learners, will come up with innovative, intangible solutions to that scenario, presenting your recommendations and findings back to the employer in a consultancy-style presentation at the end. It's practical application of learning. It's brilliant for deep networking, both with your peers and your and industry. And lastly, it's an inspiring demonstration of your value to a prospective employer, to mention how you've worked with one of the esteemed industry partners that we have on a real data-related project, and the potential impact that your recommendations have. On to the next slide quickly, though. To build your AI data skills within the program, you experience dedicated in-depth AI and data analytics learning track as a part of the Career Accelerator curriculum. There's 4 expert-led masterclasses. There's real-world case studies and live Gen AI demos. You build the AI skills needed in the workplace and study AI ethics. And you earn a badge to showcase your AI literacy, which is important. The next one starts on the 10th of Feb and runs for 6 months thereafter. There is a week's break in between each of those 3 courses that I mentioned. The time commitment, and certainly Elodie and Tim can possibly touch on this a little deeper. It is intensive. It is designed to bring you from some level of experience, or in some cases none, to being really, really confident of applying for data analytics roles, especially. I might ask just very briefly, Elodie and Tim. Elodie first. With what I've just given a really, really quick overview of the program, have you got anything to add that I may have missed, or did you feel that it would be valuable for the audience having experienced the program firsthand?
Yeah, so I'd say the time commitment is estimated at 20 hours a week, and I'd say that's pretty accurate. I thought when I applied, oh, I could probably knock it off quicker than that, but I couldn't. It does require that time commitment. I did do it alongside a full-time job, and it's possible to do as long as you're organized and motivated and committed, you can make that work. I saw a question on the Q&A. Someone wants to know, can you do this if you're starting from zero in all of those skills? And I'd say the answer is yes, but it will be harder work. So the first part of the course is Excel. And if you don't have Excel skills, you will find it difficult. There's a huge amount of content to take on. It's a very rewarding learning journey. But if you have any sort of foundation in maths or statistics or done anything vaguely analytical before, it does make it a little bit easier. If you have already got background, and I've been contacted by people already in analytical roles who just want to advance their understanding, I'd say the course would suit you too, because there's so much extra extension material that you could go off and run away with. And if you had more than 20 hours a week, you could easily fill it. And it's really up to you. So if you do, as suggested, start to build a portfolio of evidence of your technical skills as you go on, you could build a substantial amount of evidence in the course of those 6-7 months, which puts you in a great position to, do your job search.
Exactly. No exams. We think they're a waste. We don't think they're a waste of time. There's more productive ways to obtain education, or outcomes from education. And as you said, the development of a portfolio is certainly one.
And the assignments are really well thought out, and they're sort of differentiated by outcome. So they're open, and you can do whatever you want with them, given the context of the problem you're presented. So they're a really good opportunity to showcase your skills. So you do 3 of those. Best bit was the employer project, because it's real and you're working in a team. So that's much more like what you'd be doing in a job. And that was a fantastic learning opportunity. So yeah, much better than just straightforward recall tests, definitely.
Exactly. I'm going to just touch on an offer, and Tim, I'll get your thoughts in a moment. I'm not going to do slide 18, Sam, but I'm going to do slide 17. I'm really, really pleased to announce, obviously, the Head Start package for people considering change in the new year, be that to advance your existing career or change your career, or even some of the audience are looking to commence their careers. But if you apply and commit by the 29th of November, you'll unlock the exclusive Head Start package. That gets you additional career coaching. So within the Career Accelerator, there is embedded with that a career coaching program. You'll have one-on-one sessions with a really experienced career coach, and activities to do in between time, ensuring that you, pardon the pun, accelerate your career or achieve your intended outcome sooner, and therefore obtain a greater return on your educational investment as well. You'll get the first choice of the final 6-week project that you work on, which is invaluable because there's some amazing names and organisations that we'll be working with. Early access to the exclusive alumni network, of which you'll meet Elodie and Tim and others all throughout the Career Accelerator landscape, but have early access to networking benefits that brings. And there's a reduced rate to secure your placement. We do cap our numbers for the program, but obviously we want to enable that decision-making process to occur now, to have a Christmas break and to start 2025 in the best way possible, as this starts on the 10th of February. I'm mindful of time. Tim, anything you wanted to add, or do you want to jump into a couple of the questions? I mean, it's certainly not going to get through them all. Anything you wanted to add prior, Tim?
No, jump to the question. The only thing I would say is prepare to be patient. The amount of times my code didn't work, and it was, oh God, so frustrating. So it will be a test of patience, and if you're not the most patient person like me, you might have a few areas where you're like, what's going on? But it is worth it. So that's the only thing I would add to that journey. It's interesting, but it's a lot of fun after you get a hand of it.
Exactly. So I should mention it too, completely online. So it is designed to fit in with you more so than you fit in with university. There is a blend of synchronous and asynchronous learning, meaning live sessions each week with Elodie and co. And then the majority is asynchronous, meaning you can choose when and how study fits in with your life. Right, let's get to a couple of the questions. We've only got a couple of minutes. I'm happy to stick around and answer further questions from the audience regarding the program, how to apply. What we do recommend is obviously booking a time with your enrolment advisor if you haven't. The enrolment advisors are also hosting drop-in Q&As to deal with the demand that we're experiencing as well. So you'll see some comms around that, but book a time with your enrolment advisor. They're going to have a very empathetic approach to your decision-making process. Let's see, as a civil engineer, I want to take a leap into data science and artificial intelligence to apply knowledge in business, finance, or other area. What realistic roadmap would you recommend to learn from scratch? Bootcamp master. I should have read that whole question first. Obviously, the civil engineer in the audience has discovered that there's a program such as the Career Accelerator. Will it be enough to get a portfolio of my first job in tech? Civil engineers are quite common in making that transition. We've seen a number of them. So yes, absolutely. Take the leap of faith and I guess identify through the coaching that you will receive your transferable skills, of which there will be many. Anna's asked, how do you navigate the use of AI platforms with companies' internal compliance restriction sharing of private information? Christian, have you got an answer to that one?
Yes, yeah, it's something that obviously we take very seriously internally, and also something that we look at for our organisations as well. I think the bottom line is that organisations need to be clear on restrictions around AI, so what platforms can and can't be used, and what information can and can't be used within those kind of given platforms. And there's two sides to it. There's having the governance in order to prohibit those kind of those use cases that aren't allowed and aren't appropriate. So again, if you're using sort of sensitive data, ensuring that is only used in instances where you've got control and kind of ownership of any AI platforms, and making sure that that's properly communicated and enforced within a given organization. You don't want to stifle innovation, so there needs to be a process for reviewing business cases as and when they come in. But that kind of clarity, tone from the top, and control is really, really important.
Brilliant. I just realised the time. I'm happy to stick around. I've got to let the panel go. I first and foremost, if we don't get to your questions, which obviously we've run out of time a bit for them, we will download the questions and have some of the panel answer them and email them as a part of the recording or similar. But as I said, I'm happy to stick around, or Tim can stick around for a bit and answer some of them as well. But we want to say thank you to Elodie, Kate, obviously Christian and Tim for your contribution in this really, really important session, but also from the audience perspective and my perspective, I've learned a lot from you. We greatly appreciate not only your expertise, but your time in giving to the people that are interested in learning more about the future of AI and data careers. So thank you ever so kindly. And Kate, I guess if you're happy for people to look you up on LinkedIn, there's a couple of hundred prospective candidates in the future for your business and likewise for the others. But thank you for those that can't stick around, and thank you for those that can. It's much appreciated. Thank you, Anna, also for your question, and for Christian answering that one as well. Valerie's asked, with these advancements in this second technology revolution, as Kate says, what are the panelists afraid? What do we consider the threats? Tim, have you got any thoughts on that? We covered some of that obviously in the earlier discussion. Any further thoughts on what that may be?
Yeah, I said, look, if you're in a functional capacity, then it's a threat. If you're in a strategic capacity, I think it's an opportunity. And I think that's the same with everything. I think everything either is a challenge or opportunity, right? Whether it's 100 years ago, whether it's an industrial revolution, technical revolution, whatever it is, if you are positioned in terms of mindset, in terms of flexibility, then you will be able to turn anything into an advantage. So I wouldn't say there are threats per se. One thing we talk about, well, my old company used to talk about, they've already offshored quite a lot of that work into other markets anyway. So if you were a junior person coming up into a data business, then a lot of that work would already have been done somewhere else. So the threat has already happened, really. That when people talk about the jobs being gone, the jobs were already being gone in the first place. So really, it's no different. So if you can stay ahead of the game and you can, again, merge. And one thing I have in my pictures that I talk about is actually the marriage of human experience and artificial intelligence. Because you can't mimic that with AI is not going to mimic human experience. It has to be people who understand these kind of things. So whilst you can get companies that do psychographic testing through AI and this and that, you're still the person going in the room to explain to clients, explain to people. You're never going to remove that. So there are certain threats around, you know, kind of salaries may go, jobs may go, etc. But if you pivot quickly, then actually that's you turn the tide towards you, not away from you. So that's just a mindset shift that I think needs to happen.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm going to touch on some of the course-related questions for people. I've got a poll as well for those still in the audience. What's your that I'll get Sam to put up regarding the program that I didn't do earlier. But there's a couple of questions here that sort of align. So, is there any job placement or internship opportunity during the course? And someone's asked if they can use the capstone project as an internship and receive a signed document. It's not an internship. It's a very practical application of the learning from your first 3 courses in a real business environment. So it's not that you go into that workplace and work. You work with a team remotely and meet semi-regularly with that employer sponsor, so to speak, or that employer partner that we have, but it's not an internship. And Arun, in relation to job placement, I mean, or internship, I think you'll be applying for roles more senior than an intern after completing this career accelerator, especially with the coaching. Although any experience is very, very positive experience, your sights will be set more highly than an internship. You'll be developing a network, as you already have in the panel discussion today. You've listened to someone from PwC, Elodie in the leadership roles that she has, and Tim as a business owner, as well as Kate, a recruiter. You've developed the potential of a network there. The key is to demonstrate the value that you can bring to an employer through that coaching and through your transferable skills. So there's not an internship placement, but you'll be given every opportunity to achieve possibly even a higher outcome than what you may be thinking you'll be seeking at the end of the program, which is a greater return on your investment. Hang on, let me get through a few more. Elodie, the starting in the last question, someone put this in earlier. The starting point was a beginner. In order to participate in this course, do we need to know at least beginner, or can we start from zero at this course? Your peers were made up of career changers like yourself, career advancers, but also some career starters. Is it applicable for beginners as well as people already with a data skill set?
I think it is. It's just, it will be harder if you don't have any experience with, let's say, Excel. And there will be people in that position. They will just have more work to do. What I would say is the community of learners is very supportive. So working as a facilitator like I do now, often I'm beaten to answering questions by other learners who are supporting and answering the questions that learners have. So you will, and this is kind of what makes it different to just doing an online course by yourself. You're part of a cohort and you're going to learn masses from the other people that you're learning with, as well as from the facilitators and the lecturers.
Perfect. And that's so important.
And I wouldn't underestimate how much there would be to take on if you're not from a vaguely numerate background. Because you've got, programming languages to learn, but on top of that, you're learning about the scientific method and about statistics and probability and how to ask the right question. That there is a lot to take on, which is what makes it a good course, because it covers all of those bases.
Exactly. And I should mention for the audience benefit, the entry requirements are that you've completed a bachelor degree. So this is aimed at postgraduate, a bachelor degree with a quantitative unit of study previously or relevant data-related employment history. And it doesn't need to be an analyst role. It could be any role, that so long as you've worked or have a working knowledge of utilising data in a business context. So, but again, I implore anyone to book a time with their enrolment advisor to get that information and that empathetic approach and the support that you may need to put a successful application together as well. The polls popped up. Has anyone got concerns about joining the program? Is it a time commitment? Is it financial cost, lack of technical experience, or uncertain about the career transition success? We would love to know so we can further support as well. Can you apply to this even if you are a full-time university student? Christabel, thank you. Potentially, yes, but like anyone working full-time, we do go through a process of questioning how many hours a week you can commit, because we don't want people to not get a full return on their investment in the program. So if you're full-time at university and you meet the entry criteria and you have got time to do both, it's the same as a full-time employee doing this like Elodie, and I'm assuming you did too, Tim, fitting it in around your other life priorities, be that work, be that family, be that social. So yes, you can, Christabel, so long as you've met the entry criteria by doing a quantitative unit of study previously at undergraduate level. Someone's asked, how does this differ from the online masters in data science? There's a lot of difference. I guess some of it's tools that you do. Some of it is in analytics, looking at the descriptive and diagnostic, the what happened and why, before moving into the sciences of what will and how can we make it happen, the predictive and prescriptive. So there are differences with that. Also, there's probably in comparison with our programs, there's a broader variety of languages and programs used, from Excel, SQL, Python, R, Tableau, as I mentioned earlier.
I'd also say there's more of an emphasis on business and how it relates to business intelligence than you would get on a master's. And obviously on careers, it's much more focused on helping the learners transition to a career in data analytics than a master's might be.
You're right. You're exactly right. And I think it was Kate that mentioned it earlier, that, or was it, not sure, I think it was Kate, how there's been a shift from the technical to those that not only have the technical, but the soft skills and the business application of the technical skills. So you've touched on it right there, and that's why we designed this with and co-created with industry and LSE to ensure that those learning outcomes are not only practical, but also in high demand from an employer perspective. I think that's really, really key for anyone considering it. And also, with the AI inclusions, ensuring that the content's up to date is another thing. It takes a long time to change a master's curriculum, and the pace of change at the moment is such that some, not all, some are obviously very, very up to date. There may be some that may be lagging. I guess ask that question of how old the content is. I'm going to wrap it up shortly. Someone's asked about digital badging. It's a badge that a Credly badge or similar that you can put on LinkedIn and demonstrate that you've obtained AI skills or similar. This is a question for you, Tim, and we'll finish up very, very shortly, and we'll just get a few calls to action for the people. There's still so many people in the audience. Thank you for all of your time and commitment. For an experienced person who works in a non-tech role, how does the role help improve? How does the program help improve my role? You live that day in, day out to a degree. Any tips for Anonymous that's asked that question?
Yeah, so for me, in answer to the question, I didn't know any SQL before I started this course, and I'm still not really writing that much code day to day, because I'm trying to do other things with the business. But it's important for me because now I can go into a room with a data lead on a client side and a marketing lead and a brand person, and I can have an intelligent, informed conversation with all those different people. Whereas before, I could do the brand strategy and the creative side and all this. If someone who had even a day of data knowledge would ask me a question, I would have been like, oh, yeah, oh, not sure. So whilst I can go back in and write the Python, write the code, do this and do that, that's not really what the value for me was. The value for me was being able to speak with integrity and authority on all the topics without necessarily doing them myself. And that's also a bit of an answer to other questions around moving around. And some people want to go purely into data science after this, and this should. I never really wanted to. I just wanted to be able to know that the world is moving on, and I need to be able to adapt and be able to do it if I have to, but to speak about it. And also when I hire, if I go to hire 2 analysts or 2 engineers, whatever, if I don't know the first thing I'm talking about, how can I hire someone and know what they're going to do? So there's a huge amount of value for me in that respect around seeing the big picture, but also knowing the detail that drives the big picture, because you can't have one without the other. And I spent 16 years doing one whilst the other was developing quicker than anything else. So bringing those 2 together, like I said, the marriage of human experience and artificial intelligence, though that's where it really drove the value for me. Because I'm still not really doing any coding now, but I could go in and check if I had to.
Yeah, perfect. Chand has asked, with the development of AI, will there be a need for data analysts? Yes, we've discussed that at length, Chander, if you joined late, absolutely. I've got, Rodney's asked, love the discussion, thank you. What's the panel's view on learning business database CRMs as a supplement to the course? I mean, I love HubSpot. I'm a HubSpot guy myself, and have been for quite some time. Obviously, there's a myriad of them. Salesforce is by far the largest market share, but they're evolving as well. So again, look out for all of those that are keeping up to date with AI inclusions in CRMs and the like, because it's important as well. I think we're going to...
On the CRM as well, the one thing I would say is look for the one that's got the best APIs, because
Yes.
there's some stuff there, Salesforce or whatever. It looks good when you're in the platform, and the API is absolutely horrendous. And some of them, the platform's all right, but the API is really, really good. So we do a lot of work now with integrating CRM data into front-end AI platforms for clients. So we take in Facebook, Google, CRM, etc. And the experience we've had across all of those is some of them are perfect internally. And actually, some of them are building AI platforms just to make the platform better. But when they release the data out of the platform is just horrific. So don't just look at it in isolation. Look at it in terms of what's your business case, how big is your data set, what do you need to do with it? Are you pushing people through a funnel? Are you just using it to house people who've bought already? Like, the use case is the first thing to ask. So there's not really an answer to that question directly, but again, like we said earlier on, start with the business case and the business need, and then work back from there and then pick. And having worked across about 10 CRM platforms in the last 2 months, it's not one size fits all. The amount of times we've got a client that should have bought the other one, but actually bought this one, and vice versa. So that's what I'd say to that CRM question.
They're all valuable skills because people have demand for each of them. There's a couple of calls to action in the, we're going to finish up, but in the chat function, I implore anyone who hasn't yet to please download the brochure and get a really deep understanding of the value proposition of the program. But the most important thing to do, I guess, is to give it the critical thought that it deserves and to involve others in your decision-making process. If you've got family, if you've got colleagues or whatnot, if you do feel that they may be impacted by your commitment over a 6-month period, committing 20 hours a week to study, include others, and look at their pride in you in studying with in a university such as LSE. But it is important to consider the impact of others and yourself and your commitment. But it is time to commit. It's time to think ahead, and with all of the value we've provided in not only this session today, but also the previous sessions, and there'll be more. You've armed yourself. You've made a decision already to get a greater understanding of what your future around data may look like, and I applaud you for that. So that's brilliant. Lastly, book a time with your enrolment advisor or join one of the upcoming live drop-in Q&As where you can call in. You'll meet your potential peers, but you'll be able to just ask a whole lot more questions than what we've been able to get through today. And lastly, but not least, Elodie, Tim, and Sam in the background, thank you ever so kindly for so much, not only for so much of your time, but your insights, inputs, and expertise in this area that I'm sure the audience have found so valuable, as have I. It's always brilliant to hear from our alumni, our valued alumni, and our colleague in Elodie as well. We really, really do appreciate it, and you continue to inspire us here at 4th Rev, our colleagues at LSE, and no doubt the audience today as well.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Daniel. It's lovely to be here. Thank you.
Thank you all. Sorry for not getting to all the questions. We'll get to as many more as we can. We look forward to seeing you in the next series. Don't forget about the early application incentive that I ran through as well. Talk to your enrolment advisor, and they're limited, so get onto it. Well done, everyone. Thank you ever so kindly, and have a great day.